Awesome. So hello, welcome everybody. My name is Katie Abbott, and I am an associate professor of gerontology at Miami University in lovely Oxford, Ohio. You can see my virtual background here, what the university looks like. And we are delighted to talk to you today about our PAL Card Quality Improvement Project. In the state of Ohio, nursing homes are required to participate in an approved quality improvement project every other year. And so we have found those to be fantastic opportunities for us to collaborate and work with providers in the state. And so we've wanted to open it up to people across the country as well. And so these are projects that we've been running now both in Ohio, and we ran one in Tennessee. And again, they're quite specific. They're geared around quality improvement, and I want to introduce my colleague Alex Hepner, who is the guru of quality improvement. and and she has so much experience in the provider world that she understands where you guys are coming from, and is truly somebody who has your back. She wants to hear from you. She wants to learn from you. She wants to make the tools that we create better for you. And so we seek a lot of input from you so that we can make the materials as usable as possible. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Alex Hepner, who will talk to you about our quality improvement project.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Katie, and thank you to those of you who joined us. So just really quickly, so I'm Alex Hepner, and so I have the pleasure of serving older adults in a variety of capacities. Before I joined this lovely research team that has developed the PELI and all of the accompanying resources. Real quick, just the kind of our agenda for the next half hour here. So I'll provide an overview of the PAL Card project, the requirements of what PAL cards are, if you're interested in that, and then also kind of the requirements of the QIP itself. And then we'll have time for questions at the end, but if you want to drop them in the chat, and feel free to stop me as you go. Katie is on to help manage the questions as I am going through, so make sure I don't miss anything. So with that, let's dive in. So to ground us, I really like to briefly discuss why preferences matter, because that's like the underlying, goal of the PAL cards ultimately. So I'm sure you folks are well aware that the industry is shifting towards a focus on delivering person-centered care. And so our research team has really honed in on preferences because that is one specific way to provide person-centered care. Assessing and honoring preferences is kind of, the how-to of providing person-centered care. And we've found that when preferences are assessed and honored, people receive or have a greater sense of autonomy, an improved quality of life, a better emotional well-being. Care team members who know a person's preferences can anticipate their needs and work more efficiently, spending their time where it has the greatest impact. And importantly, individuals who are receiving care, when their preferences are assessed and honored, it allows them to maintain authorship of their own lives. So preferences are really at the heart and soul of person-centered care. And so then that leads us to the PELI, which is the Preferences for Everyday Living Inventory. And this is a tool that we use to assess those preferences. And then that gives us the information to then go on and honor preferences. So if you're not familiar with the PELI, it stands for the Preferences for Everyday Living Inventory. We call it the PELI for short. So it's phrased in clear conversational language. It was tested with older adults. And so it's a questionnaire that can be used to learn about an individual's most important preferences. It covers a range of domains for everyday life, and it can help you gather very useful information, such as when an individual likes to wake up, when they like to take a shower, and what kind of recreational activities they like. The PELI is the first of its kind to pass rigorous scientific testing. The tool provided to be a reliable and valid measure of preferences, and it was also accepted with a wide range of older adults. And so since then, our team has been developing resources to help, accompany the PELI and integrate preferences into care. If you're familiar, the PELI does have 72 questions on a 4-point scale from very important to not important. Some of the domains in the PAL consist of social contact, personal development, recreational and leisure, living environment, and daily routine. Additionally, 16 of those 72 questions are consistent with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the minimum data set, Section F, so preferences for customary routine and activities. But the PELI takes it a little bit further and dives deeper into those important preferences and has what we call nested or follow-up questions to help you gather more information about important preferences. So the whole goal of gathering this information is then to incorporate it into the care delivery process, and then also allows for supporting quality improvement efforts, which is what we're going to get into today. So while the PELI is an excellent tool for gathering preference information, it's not immune to the limitations of, typical paper and pencil assessments. So we've heard from a lot of provider communities that, they're able to conduct preference assessments and do these PELI interviews no problem. The big issue comes to when they are trying to communicate this information across care team members. And so as for nursing home providers, there's several barriers to communicating preference information. I'm sure you're well aware, but just to kind of mention them, you've got multiple departments, various shifts in your community. You may use volunteers or floating or agency staff. And then, if you have high staff turnover as well, that's another barrier to communicating preference information. So we had some local providers here approach us, some Oxford community providers, and saying, how can we address this issue? We really want to get this valuable information to the staff who need it most. And so we worked with them to develop the solution, which we call PAL Cards. So that, again, these communities approached us and said, we really want like a little Cardex type thing that has an individual's important preference information and travels with them throughout the community. So we took that idea and we ran with it. And together we developed what we call PAL Cards. So that stands for Preferences for Activity and Leisure. PAL Cards are 5x7 laminated cards that reflect an individual's recreation and leisure preference information. And you can gather this information either using those 8 activity items from the MDS or the 33 from the full PELI. So that includes those 8 plus 25 more to make to kind of cover all the domains of recreational interests. And so after gathering that preference information and obtaining permission from the resident, of course, the cards are then placed on their wheelchair, their walker, or even a door or bulletin board as a way to communicate important preference information to staff. It was great for volunteers when volunteers were able to be in our community, maybe not so much these days, and also even other residents throughout your community. So the front of the PAL card you can kind of see here on the screen includes the individual's name, a brief biography about them. So this is would be where they're from, what their career was, how many kids they had, any hobbies or other interests, and any just maybe their proudest moments, different things that they want to share. They want staff or other people to know about them and who they are as a person before they joined your community. And then the back of the card is a place where we have space for the preferences. And so you'll see here there's spots for 6 preferences. And so this is where you'll put any information that you gathered from an individual's very important preferences. So this is going to vary depending on each individual's unique preferences and interests. And so that's the PAL card. I do want to say we've recently updated the template, and so we've got some more features here. And so we incorporated some feedback that we got from providers, but also our team of speech pathologists. So the old template, the name was a little bit smaller. We had our logo kind of front and center. It was a lot larger than it is now on this template, as you can see here. And it also had a date right under the resident's name that was commonly confused for a place to put their birthday, which is the last thing we want, as that is protected health information and we don't want any HIPAA violations. So we've made it clear that the date can go over here for communities who want to keep track of when cards were created for updating annually or just keeping track of that information. So we made it clear that that's the revision date or the creation date and not a place to put a birthday. But probably the most important feature that we are really excited to have added to the PAL card is these communication icons. And so we've heard from communities that the PAL cards, oh my gosh, these are great tools, especially for folks who have trouble communicating, and that could maybe be because of a cognitive impairment, but also because of a speech impairment. So we worked with our team of lovely speech pathologists to identify icons that can help communicate residents' important preferences for communicating. And so for example, let's see, like the thumbs up, thumbs down, that icon, that could help communicate to staff that this individual has a preference for, or maybe potentially the need for simple gestures to help them understand what you're trying to ask or communicate to them. And so the cool thing about this template, we'll provide it to you as part of participating in the PAL Card project, but it includes all of these icons as well as their descriptions. So we already have canned responses to help you communicate, what the goal of each icon, or the preference, excuse me, for each of these icons. So they're all built into the template already, so you can decide to use them, or you can just delete them if it's not appropriate for some residents, or if you choose not to use that feature. But again, that's a built-in feature of the template that we'll provide to you as a participant of the QIP. And so, like I said, this is a new feature, so we're eager to get it out into providers' hands, but then also to hear some feedback, see how well it works, if there's anything we can improve. As Katie mentioned at the beginning, I really like to learn from you and see how I can help you make these resources work for you, but also if it's not working, let me know, and we like to see how we can improve things. And we're always adding to our list of resources to help make PAL cards possible for your community. So just want to mention that. Alrighty, so that is the template. Okay, so here's some PAL cards in action. You can see one on a walker. This one was on this gentleman's wheelchair, and it's being read there with a staff member. So the cool thing about PAL cards is that this is a communication tool that works in a variety of ways. So it can work across departments, between residents and staff, and even between residents themselves. So, so a couple examples of this just to give you a better idea. We've had provider communities explain that, activity departments are typically the ones who gather this kind of information. And so this is a way to help the activity or your recreation and leisure staff communicate important preferences for activity and leisure across other departments or disciplines. So for example, we've heard from some communities that their therapy departments are extra excited to have access to this kind of information. Not only does it help them get to know the residents that they're guiding through therapy, but they've also found it is really helpful in knowing what somebody's interested in to help motivate them to be a little bit more compliant with their plan of care as far as completing their therapy. So that's a really great outcome there. Additionally, we've heard from communities that new staff are really appreciative of of this tool, because it gives them the ability to quickly get to know residents who they're going to be providing care for. The flip side of that, we've also heard from communities that even longtime staff have reported learning new things about residents that have been there for years. And so again, it's a really great communication tool in that regard, allowing staff to have topics of conversation with residents. We've heard that staff have been able to use some information on the card to identify topics that will help alleviate anxiety or reduce resistance to care. One of my favorite stories to share is a provider had a resident who had a lot of anxiety and distress around bathing. And so every time staff member would try to assist this person in bathing, there was a lot of resistance to care. It was a struggle for the care provider and for the resident as well. And so they decided to create a PAL card for this individual. And after they did, they found out in this community they had it was like an apple butter festival, some sort of foodie kind of type festival. I think it was apple butter. And so they saw, oh, you really like this festival. And so they would bring this up to this individual. They would ask them, what did you like about it? Did you like the parades? What was your favorite treat that you would get at the festival? And they'd start having this conversation. And sure enough, this individual was able to receive the care without experiencing a lot of distress and anxiety. So it's just kind of one of the benefits of being able to provide your staff with topics that are going to be really meaningful and comforting to the resident, which I think is especially important these days in light of COVID-19, when all of us are experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety, but it's really impacted how you folks are providing care to your residents, and also just the ability to socialize in general. So this is really important. And then the final way that the PAL card kind of works is to communicate is to, it allows residents to get to know each other as well. And so that was kind of one unanticipated finding that we heard from providers. We thought this would be great for staff. It didn't even cross our minds that residents would want to get to know each other as well. And so one provider told me how they had a resident in their community who they had shared rooms. And so this one woman had already had a PAL card for her, and then she got a new roommate, and she shared her PAL card with her new roommate. And it turns out that they were able to bond very quickly over similar interests. They both went to the same church when they were still living in the community, and so they were able to connect over, having that that shared interest and that background. But then also they found out that they both really enjoyed worshiping and especially singing gospel hymns, and so they were able to connect really quickly. So again, just some examples of how this is a really effective communication tool on a variety of levels. Alrighty. So before I go any further, I do want to address what tends to be the elephant in the room, one of the most frequently asked questions that I get about the PAL cards, and that is, what about Hipaa? And so because we know violating Hipaa or really any regulation is a huge concern for care providers, since the nursing homes is such a highly regulated environment, and it's really of everyone's top priority to remain in compliance. We wanted to go to some experts and get an answer, definitive answer for this. And so we've consulted lawyers and Hipaa privacy officers who've told us that preferences are not protected health information. I think there's 18 different items that fall under PHI or protected health information, and preferences is not on that list. And so, so we take that into account, but we also want to make sure to safeguard against any potential Hipaa violations. We have a few best practices that we encourage that are built into the process. So again, just right off the bat, the PAL card communicates recreation and leisure items. And so we chose this specifically to avoid any potential Hipaa violations, specifically sharing information about someone's interests, maybe their past or hobbies, different things like that. It's less likely for any protected information to pop up in those preference items. Additionally, we recommend that you don't include any protected health information on there. So the date of birth, like I said, we revised our card to make it clear that the place for the date is not a birth date, and it's actually the creation date or the revision date, so you can keep track of that. And then additionally, part of the process is getting permission from the resident or their family member to create and place the card. And so just asking the resident if they want to participate this is in line with person-centered practices. Again, so, and instead of doing something for the resident, it's they're a part of this conversation that you're having, do you want this information shared for you? And then additionally, part of the process, we also make sure that the resident or their family member, if they're not able, reviews the card for accuracy and approves it. So we've got, first asking their permission to even kind of create the card, and then, kind of bookending it with, again, asking permission or reviewing it and making sure that it's the information that they want to share, and asking permission to then share it with your community. Yes, so that is kind of how we safeguard against any Hipaa violations there. But alrighty, so I'll jump back into the QIP. Again, I just wanted to address that because I know that is a huge concern and that comes up. But all right, so what does all this mean in terms of the PAL Card Quality Improvement Project that we are inviting you folks to join us in? So the main project tasks for providers for participating in the QIP include identifying an on-site coordinator to lead this initiative. So this is kind of the point person for me. So I'll be facilitating your community with this QIP. So that's kind of who I go to check in with each month and get updates from. But then also for your community, it's kind of the person who's going to be leading the initiative, who's got a good handle on the project task and what's to come, and is kind of, leading the charge as far as getting the project done and moving it forward. The next step, or the next big requirement, is creating PAL cards for either one neighborhood, so that could be, a unit, wing, or hallway, kind of however your community is organized, or approximately 15 to 20 residents throughout your community, and creating these PAL cards over a period of 6 months. This is flexible. The absolute deadline for completing the PAL card project is June 30th of 2021. But that's kind of our goal, is once we get you started, in 6 months you'll have completed the project. And so the reason we've picked the 15 to 20 is we have found that this is enough to not only help you generate interest, but also build the capacity and kind of get over that learning curve of what it will, to help you understand, what it will take to implement PAL cards in your community, or to scale the project up if you so choose. But it's also not too much where it's setting yourself up to fail. And so you're not taking on, too much or too little, so you're still able to learn about the process, but and hopefully be successful. And that's also why I'm why I'm considered a resource for this project, because I'll help walk you through that as well. And we'll also provide all of the materials that you could possibly need to create the PAL card. So like I said, the template, the interviews, any other materials that you may share with staff, we'll provide all of that to you as a participant. Then the next kind of big step for the project is discussing PAL cards during either staff meetings, new employee orientations, team huddles, if you are doing town halls still. And the purpose of this is to explain the PAL cards, what they are, and provide education to staff. So we've heard from providers who have successfully implemented PAL cards that the first step to success is really just raising awareness and letting staff know of the project and how to use this new communication tool, and kind of what your expectations are with the PAL cards. And so we have resources to help you with this step as well. Alrighty, and then some additional project tasks include collecting and recording PAL card implementation data, as well as feedback from residents and staff. So we'll provide the data collection forms needed to help you gather the information that will ultimately help you assess the scalability and the sustainability of the PAL cards in your community. So for example, keeping track of how long the PAL cards took, who's doing the interview, which interview you're using. So we've created those forms to help you record that data that, again, will help you evaluate what it will take to scale up the project in your community if you so choose. And then once you've completed your project, the very last thing to do is to complete an exit interview or a one-to-one call with me that will help you reflect on the implementation process, and then I'll also help evaluate the project success in your community. And just kind of and give you an opportunity as well to give any feedback to the materials, to the process in general. We're always trying to improve. But again, the goal is to help you evaluate the project for your community and kind of troubleshoot any barriers if you were to expand across your community moving forward. Alrighty, and so then as a result of participating in the PAL Card QIP, you can expect the following quality improvement outcomes. So just being able to communicate residents' important preference information across staff, like I said, across departments and across staff, successfully initiating conversations between staff and residents, or even residents amongst themselves. You'll also be providing a tool that assists either new or fill-in or agency staff to be able to quickly learn about the residents they're providing care for. You'll be providing opportunities for staff and residents to develop stronger relationships, and then also increase the residents' well-being when they know their voices are heard and their preferences are understood. I've heard from communities that have started the PAL Card project that residents are really, really excited about it. They really appreciate the extra step the community is taking to get to know them and prioritizing getting to know them as, the whole person that they were before they joined the community. And so that's a really important piece that we want to stress as well. Alrighty, so in addition to those quality improvement outcomes, you'll also expect the following. So I will provide the initial training to get you started, and so I will offer this to all staff that are going to be participating in or supporting your community's efforts in the PAL Card project. So I can do that for a whole group of you, or individually if not everyone's schedules are in alignment. And so this is really important to help everyone get on board with the project and understand all the requirements to help you kind of, move through the project's requirements. Additionally, I will work with you to help understand your unique situation. So I know that this pandemic has drastically changed the way all of our lives, every aspect of our lives, but especially for nursing home providers, how you're providing care has drastically changed. So my goal is really to work with you to develop an implementation plan that is realistic, that also takes into consideration the challenges that you're experiencing right now because of the pandemic. Again, we have until the drop dead deadline is June 31st or June 30th or 31st. I can't remember. Whatever the last day of the project is to complete this project. So again, we have some time, and I can work with you and take baby steps to support you along the way. And then we'll also touch base monthly to troubleshoot any barriers and adjust the game plan as needed. So, we'll do monthly coaching calls. These will be about 15 to 20 minutes. And the goal of this call is give me an opportunity to check in with you and see how things are going. I like to say this isn't for me to kind of no judgment, because some folks I'll get on the call with and they'll be like, I really haven't gotten anything done, and that's okay, because I know you're really busy before the pandemic. Definitely, like I said, it's changed how you've worked now, but it's really an opportunity for you to kind of let me know how things are going, and then also troubleshoot any barriers. So at this point, I think we've worked with, oh my gosh, over between 30 and 40 providers. I don't have an exact number. Maybe Katie can refresh my memory of how many times I've done this, but I've worked with a lot of communities to help them implement PAL cards. And I say this because I've gained a wealth of knowledge from them as far as kind of what works and different successful strategies. And so my favorite thing is sharing a new strategy or new approach that a provider has, found really works for them in their community, and sharing that. But again, recognizing that every community is different, so we can troubleshoot some different barriers. And I've, like I said, gained a wealth of knowledge from the communities that I've worked with. So hopefully I can help you come up with some solution that works for you. And then the goal by the end of the project is hopefully I will have helped you build the capacity to implement PAL cards across your community. Again, this is kind of a small pilot effort, with the 15 to 20 residents to help you build the capacity and do that monthly coaching. And so hopefully you'll be able to then move on and expand the project throughout your community if you so choose. Alrighty, and so next is the project timeline. So we've got some important dates to keep in mind. So we will no longer be accepting applications after December 31st. So you have until the end of the year to just sign up to participate. And then, so as long as you've signed up before December 31st, we can get you going on the project. So all providers who plan to participate, will need to attend the training and then launch the project between now and January 30th of 2021. So as long as we get you, trained and going by January, we should be in good shape to complete the project requirements by the end of the project, which is June 30th or 31st. I should have looked up. I think it's 30th.
Yeah, you're right. It's January 31st and then June 30th. You got it.
So I mix those two up. Anyway, what is that saying that helps you remember? Anyway, I'm sorry. So those are the dates. End of January to do the training and launch your project, and then to complete the project by the end of June of 2021. Alrighty, so I'm really excited about the project, so I'm sure that I talked kind of quickly. So now is the time for you folks to ask any questions, any concerns, kind of what you think about the PAL Card project. Feel free to ask.
We had a couple of questions that came up as you were talking, and I tried to answer them, but maybe you can elaborate. By using the PAL cards, will it reduce the amount of questions that we have to ask for the PELI?
Ooh, so what so you responded, or you want me to?
Yeah, I did. So what I said is that the POW card is sort of separate from the questions that you're asking. So you can choose to ask whatever PELI questions you wish. If you're going to use Compass, then what's built into there for the PAL card are the 8 items from the MDS Section F. So if you want to just use those 8, there you go. If you want to use additional items, we would recommend that you could pick from up to 33 recreation and leisure items that are as part of the PELI. We do not have all of those items built into Compass yet. And so it doesn't mean that you couldn't do those, you couldn't ask some of those extra questions, write it down on paper and integrate it into the PAL card template.
Yeah. And just to add to that too, I think the goal of the PAL card is really to leverage that preference information that you're already collecting. So if you're doing the full PELI, you can just extract the preference and leisure information from there and then use it to the PAL card. And similarly, if you're just doing the 16 items from the MDS, you can do the PELI version of that, which has the importance, or not the importance, excuse me, the nested questions that help you gather more information again to fill out the PAL card. And so the overarching goal is, again, you're already collecting this preference information that's really valuable. And so the PAL card is a way to just leverage what you're already doing. And so again, I can work with you one-on-one to kind of understand your process a little bit better and see what's going to work best for you.
What other questions do you have? Brittany, do you have a question?
I can't tell if if we need to unmute or mute people or.
Well, maybe I'll try. Brittany, go ahead and hop on.
Yeah, I was just,
Oh, here we go.
we're in a community that has independent, assisted, and soon to be memory care. But I've been in memory care for over 10 years and I love this because it's fabulous. But what are your experiences been with memory care communities or residents with trying to extract the information from them as well as the partnership with their family members? Because what I find is family members don't know necessarily. They know the beginning of their life, but sometimes they haven't been in contact with their loved ones for a couple years.
You want me to take that, or you want to take that, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I can start and you can,
okay.
You can jump into, we always tend to tag team things anyway. So yeah, so I think that's a great question. So, so we have had providers who have exclusively used PAL cards with individuals with dementia, and even some folks with, behavioral or mental health issues as well in those kinds of populations. And so we found that the PAL cards are successful, but it's really kind of tailoring your approach. And so we always recommend going to the individual first and trying to ask them about their preferences, depending on where they are in their dementia. They are still able to communicate their preference information. So we always recommend, going to the individual first. But if that's not a possibility, we do try to engage family members. And so, yeah, they may not know everything, but I think even the little tidbits that they do know can still be really helpful as far as just topics that are going to be meaningful to the individual. And then if that isn't possible, you can also do use staff observation to identify preferred activities as well. And so, again, if your community, you've had staff that have been there for a while that know the residents really well, you can rely on what you know and use that to complete the PAL card. Yeah, Katie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add is yes to all of that, and that we have had communities where we thought that the memory care would be the hardest place to implement this, and that's where they started. I mean, we let providers pick who they want to do this with, and they said that they wanted to do it for their memory care because that's the most needed. And so what we've heard is that it's just a variety of things. So for example, if somebody can communicate with you, they may not tell you things that are actually accurate, and then family might come and read this and say this isn't true. And so, I think you're going to know your families and your people well enough to sort of figure a strategy out, and we'll of course help you with that. Some providers have included some questions from the Peli in the move-in packet so that they've tried to solicit some information from family members prior, but you're right. Sometimes family don't know the answers, and that makes them feel even worse when you ask them this information. And so there's some providers who have tried to work with families and have not gotten any response. And that's where they've tried to give them the whole Peli, the all 72 questions. So again, I think that if you think about it as an unfolding, as a relationship building opportunity, it may be an option where you could ask a few questions initially. And, then as you get to know folks more, you might see that some information is going to come from family, some may come from the staff. Um, and it's just a little bit of gathering information from different sources.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I was thinking actually about using, with our residents, using communication boards maybe to see if that might trigger something, because we do therapeutic music with them.
That's brilliant.
Maybe, yeah, maybe using communication boards for, what music do you like, and things like that. That way they can kind of understand without verbalizing, what they want to express. So great. Thank you so much. Yeah, because this is so exciting because I think so often we just do the same questions and expect a different result. They wind up on the shelf somewhere, and some people know something and some people don't. And, this is a great way for them to learn about each other, because most of our residents can still read. So I think
And
that's
that
great.
was just something that we hadn't even considered. We didn't even consider that the residents themselves would enjoy reading each other's cards.
Right.
And we've had communities who have done like a preference bingo or preference Jeopardy, where they've asked staff, hey, who used to be who won the fair queen. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think that there's lots of things that you can do that can be fun and then kind of infuse some joy around these topics. I dropped in the chat box a link to a video that we filmed back in June about how to communicate effectively while wearing a face mask. And in this, our speech language pathologists talk about those communication boards. And so it made me think of that when you were talking. And so that could be another resource for you all to share with staff, especially since it doesn't look like our need to wear face masks is going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
What else?
I'm just excited to sign up to be
Awesome.
a participant, because I think it's a great way to learn about our beautiful people that we serve. So
Agreed. And we've had some communities who have staff fill them out too. And so if there's an opportunity for residents to learn about staff, I don't know if there's a bulletin board option where they could be placed or something, but that could be a fun,
great idea.
anything that helps, again, build those relationships. That's what it's all about. And we're trying to focus on some things that, again, that are conversation starters and that lots of people have in common.
Right, because we focus so much on how to care for people, but sometimes, that should be a standard across the board, but really finding out who they are. And I just completed one of the interviews, and that person enjoyed the time so much, just talking about their lives with me. So it was excellent. So thank you. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. That does remind me too of providers who've already been, who've started working on the project have used it as an opportunity to provide one-on-ones if their community is limiting group or group activities or, visitation. I know that's opening up now too, but I think before that, it's a really great way to complete a one-on-one with an individual and having that opportunity to reminisce, and then also have that social connection and attention. That us as humans, we all, really need.
Yeah.
Yeah, need. Absolutely. All right.
Any other questions? There were a couple questions. One was about, does this integrate with point-click care? And I explained that Compass right now doesn't, but that's one of the iterations that we hope to have point-click care integration next year. And then you already answered Brittany's question about, can you go back and edit the interview response after you submit it in Compass? So if you want to say anything more about those two things.
Yeah, so I think I do have some slides on Compass. I didn't really integrate it in. So that's one thing. So the PAL card, we originally created it with the paper and pencil. So you print off the PELI assessment and collect the information that way, and then go to your computer and type it into a template that we've provided. So that's one opportunity that still exists. But then we also recently launched what we call Compass 16. So it's a web-based application that incorporates the MDS, the 16 questions from the MDS, but then those PELI nested or follow-up items that help you gather more information that are really crucial to understanding the specific details about an important preference. So let me go. I think I have some slides maybe about that. But so the cool thing about Compass is that so you can collect this preference information, but then next to the 8 recreation and leisure items that are included in the MDS section F, on there you can select include on PAL Card, and then all the information that you gather about that preference will automatically appear in what we've got this PAL Card editor. And so then you can just drag and drop the information into the PAL card, and it's got the 6 fixed preference boxes. You can edit and type in that information. If if you took notes and they weren't completely full sentences, you can write it in the information in iLanguage here. Type the text for the bio piece on the back. There's just some more examples of editing the text, and then it pulls all the information into the template. The only thing that's missing here is the communication preference icons aren't built into this yet. It's funny, we've been, creating and revising things a little bit faster than we can get it into technology. Who knew it takes so long to do all that coding and behind the scenes stuff to make things work in an app. But anyway, so that kind of speeds up the process a little bit. But Compass is limited to just the 16 MDS questions, and then even within that, just the 8 that are focused on recreation and leisure preferences. So this is another opportunity, if you're interested, that we're offering is another way to kind of do the PAL cards, and this still works with the QIP. So yeah, so I think kind of a little bit of a tangent, but yes, so this is just another opportunity because I think some of the questions were related to that. It looks like I'm catching up on the chat box.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We can keep you here all day, but we know you have other things to do.
Right.
And I do really want to emphasize, I know Alex has mentioned this, but we're fortunate to have grant funding to support this work. And it directly supports Alex, it supports a little bit of me, and this is the kind of work that we really thoroughly enjoy. And so please know that due to this grant funding, we want to have your back. We want to work with you. We want to help you problem solve, and we want to be part of the solution. And so we know that by supporting you all, we can do that.
Yeah. So with that, yes. So like the working with you is my favorite part of this, and because of our generous grant funding, all these materials, including the Compass app, are available at no cost to you. So that probably is important to mention. Maybe should have led with that, but a good place to kind of wrap things up. So I do want to say, so my contact information is on the screen. So I'm here to answer any other questions that you may have. Also, if you want to sign up, I can give you a follow-up email to make sure that you have the registration link, or you can just shoot me an email and we can get started from there. Yeah, so if we don't have any other questions, we ready to let everybody loose?
Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, and hope to hear from you folks soon.
Have a great day.
Thanks.